Hi, this is Mike, and you're watching the Longbox Guys presents Green Lantern 1941. This is part of an ongoing video series in which we break down the entire first run of Green Lantern comics from the Golden Age. This year we start is 1941, and Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, who first appeared on May 21st, 1940 in All-American Comics number 16, was created by Martin Odell and Bill Finger. We will cover All-American Comics in greater depth at another time, as other great characters from the Golden Age debuted in its pages, like the Atom, Red Tornado, Dr. Midnight, and even Solomon Grundy. 8 months after his premiere, Alan Scott became one of the founding members of the Justice Society of America, appearing in All-Star Comics number 3. Again, All-Star Comics and the JSA will be future episodes for the Longbox Guys Presents. On September 26, 1941, Green Lantern got his own title. The first few pages are just a recap of his secret origin from All-American Comics. A train crashes, and its only survivor is the engineer, Alan Scott. He sees a mysterious green flame coming from a lantern, which yells at him, "To you I bring fulfillment of the last prophecy. Power! Power to fight evil. Power if you have faith in yourself. Lose that faith and you lose the energetic force of the Green Lantern, for willpower is the flame of the Green Lantern." It tells him to make a ring out of part of the lantern, and in order to renew its powers, he has to touch the ring to the lantern every 24 hours. Alan vows to find the people responsible for the train wreck and decides the best way to do that is dress up in a costume with a cape and a picture of a lantern on his chest, in case anyone wonders why a guy called Green Lantern doesn't actually carry a Green Lantern. The first news story we get is called The Masquerading Mayor, also by Martin Odell and Bill Finger. In fact, they write and draw all of the stories in this issue. In order to be closer to the source of news, Alan has taken a job with Apex Broadcasting Company Studios as a radio engineer, because apparently a train engineer is pretty much the same skill set as a radio engineer. Alan's girlfriend, secretary, not really sure what, has inherited a large estate that has horses. He drives over to visit her and arrives just in time to punch out a notorious gangster, Scar Yorgis, who is going to slap Irene for getting mouthy. Just a side note, Irene is not afraid of Scar or his mook, Slink, and won't back down when they threaten her into selling her horse, Jersey Queen. That night, Alan suspects the gangsters will be up to no good, so he puts on his costume, says his oath as he charges the ring to the lantern. "And I shall shed my light over dark evil, for dark things cannot stand the light of the Green Lantern." I think we can all agree the Silver Age Green Lantern has a much better oath than the Golden Age. Alan then shows the reader the first of his amazing powers that the ring gives him, as he flies towards Irene's estate. When he gets there, he beats up the two racketeers who are planning on cutting Jersey Queen's tendons. GL beats up the guys with his fists and never bothers to use his ring. Scar is not deterred and enlists Irene's jealous cousin, Gerald Davis, for another scheme. Davis convinces Irene to put Jersey Queen in a race. Irene, being just a jump broad, doesn't realize that it's a claiming race, and the owner of the horse that wins gets all the other horses. The fix is in as Jersey Queen loses, and that dirty rat Davis buys Jersey Queen from the winner. Scar then has Davis put Jersey Queen in a bunch of races where she wins, making her the favorite for the big derby, which increases the odds of Scar's horse Pegasus. They plan to throw the race by having the jockey stick a sponge in Jersey Queen's nose so she won't be able to breathe. Luckily, Green Lantern has climbed up the side of Scar's building and is eavesdropping in on the scheme. Why the Green Lantern climbs the building when he can fly? Who knows, but he does fly away. Green Lantern uses his ring to walk through a wall of the stable and knocks out the gangster with one punch. I wonder what the wall of that barn was made of, because I seem to recall his weakness doesn't work against wood. Although maybe we're dealing with a story that predates this weakness. Green Lantern decides to steal the horse. Yeah, that's right, he's a horse thief. He calls the jockey Small Fry, too, as he steals it. Not important to the plot, but just not cool, bro. 7 mobsters show up at Irene's manor, but the Green Lantern ambushes them with a solid wall of green light from the ring, which knocks them down. Before then they can recover, Green Lantern gives them all knockout punches, except for Scar. He used the ring to make Scar blind. He then tells Scar that he will remain blind unless he confesses to the cops. Scar acquiesces. Irene rides Jersey Queen to victory, and her evil cousin gets his comeuppance. The next day, Irene tells Alan what happened and tells him that when she asked how she could ever repay the Green Lantern for his help, he said, "like this," and then kissed her. This sets up the classic comic book lover's triangle with the woman torn between the two identities of the hero. I'm going to assume that Irene suffers from face blindness because the Green Lantern mask is not much of a disguise, although I think we can all admit it's better than a pair of glasses. Quick Alec fact, Irene Miller was the secretary at Apex Broadcasting Company in Gotham City and appeared in a number of comics including Green Lantern, All-American Comics, Comic Cavalcade, All-Star Comics, and All-Star Squadron. Next up in the book is an article titled "Willpower is the Flame of the Green Lantern. My flame shall be yours if you develop your willpower." It's by none other than Dr. William Moulton Marston, the creator of Wonder Woman, although she won't appear in comics for another month. The article essentially tells kids to just keep on trying with all your might, and you can will yourself to become whatever you want. The next story in the comic is called Disease. A pneumonia outbreak is threatening the city, and the money to pay for the medicine to fight it has been stolen by Boss Filch. Green Lantern confronts Boss Filch, but he tells GL that he can't prove anything, say. Green Lantern decides he needs to raise money to buy the pneumonia serum, so he busts into an illegal casino, beats up the mobsters running the place, and steals the money. That's right. I'm not kidding. He then begins his campaign of mugging goons and taking their money. The Green Lantern shows off some of his powers of his ring when he uses it to stall a car engine and melt the gun of some bank robbers. He accepts the reward from the banker by telling him, "Send the check to the pneumonia serum drive." He also goes door to door collecting donations and runs into a con man posing as him. This con man looks exactly like him, so now I understand why Irene Miller can't figure out his secret identity. Filch's son comes down with pneumonia, and Filch agrees to confess if Green Lantern saves the kid. Green Lantern steals some of the serum from a rescue plane, saves the kid, and turns Filch and the politician who was working for him over to the police. The next story is called Arson in the Slums. I bet you can guess what this is about. Reports on his radio station say that fires are breaking out in one section of the city, which gets Alan suspicious. He decides to investigate as the Green Lantern and happens upon a fire. Now, rather than putting out the fire, he rescues the people trapped in the burning building. Green Lantern shows off another power of his ring as he uses it to read the mind of a politician whose family has been kidnapped by the arsonists. Green Lantern beats up the bad guys again without using his ring and gets the boss to confess to everything. Next, there's a short story about Hop Harrigan called Trailers of Treachery. I do mean a short story. It's all words. There's only 2 drawings, and it's pretty common for comics in the Golden Age to have short stories included in their comics. This one features Hop, Dobie Dickles, and the Green Lantern. Alec fact, Hop Harrigan was a teenage pilot who gained fame by flying to China and rescuing refugees. First appeared in All-American Comics #1 in 1939. Charles Dobie Dickles was a taxi driver from Brooklyn who became the Green Lantern's comic sidekick. Dobie had appeared in a couple months earlier in All-American Comics #27. Imagine him as a kind of Lou Costello who can actually fight. The final story in issue #1 was called When He Slugs 'Em, They Stay Slugged. Alan's radio station sends him to Landavo, a country in South America known for its amazing democracy. For some reason I can't fathom, he decides to take Dobie Dickles with him. Unfortunately, Landavo is in the middle of a civil war. Now's a good time to point out that the artwork hasn't really been stunning by modern standards, but the overt racism in the way the South Americans are depicted as looking like misshapen beings is pretty jarring if you're not used to good old-fashioned Golden Age bigotry. Although this was published right before the U.S. was drawn into World War II, they're already establishing the Nazis as bad guys. They don't actually call them foreign agents, but they're trying to undermine the democracy, and they don't really try to hide where they're from. Dobie Dickles gets mistaken for a German general called Kraut, and hilarity ensues. The Green Lantern rescues him from a firing squad. Fun fact, this story tells us that Green Lantern is immune to all metal, so bullets just bounce off him. Green Lantern squashes the rebellion with magical green fire and saves the country from falling in the hands of their fatherland. Issue #2, cover dated winter 1942, hit the stands on December 26, 1941. Still only 10 cents, this issue's cover has a few things to note. First, Green Lantern shares his billing with his sidekick Dobie Dickles. Also, the DC comic logo now says DC, a Superman publication, attesting to the fact that Superman was the most popular hero of this generation. For now, because we all know Captain Marvel will later outsell Supes. We should keep in mind that this issue also comes out a few weeks after Pearl Harbor. In the bottom right corner is the logo of 3 airplanes with the caption, "Let's go USA, keep 'em flying." Like last issue, this one is written by Bill Finger with art by Martin Nodell. However, unlike last issue, which featured 4 new Green Lantern stories, this is billed as a 4-chapter novel-length story called The Tycoon's Legacy. They start off by letting the readers know that the Green Lantern can fly through space, walk through walls, and deflect bullets fired directly at him. But they leave room open for more powers by saying he has many other supernatural gifts that are granted by his willpower. Green Lantern stops a burglary. He uses the ring to heat up the bad guy's gun, and then he uses his fist to deliver justice. He literally leaves a mark on one of the bad guy's cheeks. Bill Finger isn't afraid of dialects, as the 2 cops have Irish accents and another guy sounds like Chico Marx. Alan Scott has been promoted to a radio announcer and is approached by family members of Joe Stromboli, another guy with a Chico Marx accent. Joe was working as a janitor for the Great Jeffers Company. Mr. Jeffers liked to go fishing with Joe, and on his deathbed, he rewrote his will and left his fortune to good old Joe. However, Stromboli gets screwed out of his inheritance by some no-good lawyers who get Joe thrown into the insane asylum. However, Green Lantern busts him out. The Green Lantern has a new power as he uses the ring to paralyze the sanitarium's guards. All the clues seem to point towards the crooked lawyer, Elias Slag, but when Green Lantern goes to confront him, Slag is assassinated by a sniper. Dun dun dun! Green Lantern finds some more clues that the mastermind behind everything is nicknamed Baldy. Unfortunately, Alan Scott runs into a roadblock in his investigation when he realizes there is more than one bald man in Gotham City. The mysterious Baldy is able to defeat Green Lantern with a door. Finally find out that only a non-metal like wood is able to take down the Green Lantern. On a personal note, this door is the first villain that has had any luck stopping the Green Lantern. I believe later on he will have an amazing career as Dory McDoorface. Green Lantern uncovers a few of Baldy's schemes, but when he finally finds him, Baldy uses tear gas to escape. For those of you who are keeping score at home, it's Bald Guy with No Superpowers 2 and Green Lantern 0. Green Lantern finally realizes that an escaped convict has been posing as the vice president of the company and as a bald man by wearing the clown's skull cap. Look, I understand you're greedy and homicidal, but pretending to be bald, that's just shameful. With the real bad guys caught, Joe Stromboli is given his inheritance. He promises to use the money to help the victims of Baldy and to buy war bonds. That's going to do it for the Longbox Guys present Green Lantern 1941. If you enjoyed the video, please click subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video, you should also subscribe. You can also check out me and the rest of the Longbox Guys every week on our podcast. You can find us on iTunes and on Podbean. Thanks for listening, and if you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below or email us at luckybastard@outsidethelongbox.com.